other assets to better secure our border, and I think that's where we're having the conflict.
But you just heard the president say a drone cannot stop a caravan, and you know that to be the case. How do you counter on that?
We already did stop multiple caravans. All those large caravans that you saw going through Mexico, they actually did not enter the United States because our border patrol agents are doing a fabulous job. We already have the assets down there. And if you just look at the facts, the FBI has reported, based on their latest data, violent crime is down, property crime is down. According to the Department of Homeland Security, border crossings are all-time 20 to 45-year low. So there is no national emergency.
Congressman, on those who are coming to the border now is it's families. It's women and children that are coming on to the rate of about 2,000 a day. Now, what the president is saying is that he gave on the description for the wall, he gave on some monetary issues, he gave on a few other areas. Where are you willing to give on this issue that would get the border security, that would maybe not satisfy you entirely, but do a good job of security, and also reopen the government?
Right. That's a great question. So I support comprehensive immigration reform. The issues that you identified are issues we have to tackle. We need to look at this in a comprehensive manner instead of in isolation. But we can't do this if we're holding the American people hostage to a government shutdown. That's why we need to reopen the government and then sit down and have a large...
But you know what the White House concern is on that, sir? And then it was laid out yesterday in the Situation Room based on the conversations that we had with those who were inside. And that is, if they reopen the government in 30 days, will you give something on border security? And can you define what that something is right now?
I think both Democrats and Republicans share securing our border and border security. And that's why when the House passed our appropriation bills on a bipartisan basis to reopen government, we passed 6 of them that reopens government till September.
I get it, but you're not giving. I don't mean to be rude here. I'm just looking for something on behalf of your side that you would give toward the other that could solve this.
Yeah, so Bill, so one of the bills only keeps the Department of Homeland Security funded for 1 month, basically 30 days. And we did that because we wanted to sit down and in those 30 days come up with a comprehensive immigration solution with the White House. That's why it was packaged this way. So we all have an incentive to work this out for the American people.
Congressman, how's this going to end? I mean, the president walked out of a meeting yesterday, called it a waste of time, said that leaders of your party will not sit down and listen to the facts on the border. They're calling the crisis to which the president refers at the border manufactured.
I think there is definitely a dispute on the facts. If you look at the Trump administration's own data, it does show, for example, that there's less crime in border counties than non-border counties. Overall, crime is down. But what we really need to do is reopen government and have a large, comprehensive discussion on immigration. And I think we can do that in 30 days. That's why we passed the one bill that only gives us 30 days to have the Department of Homeland Security funded.
I don't know where you're after 30 days. Kellyanne Conway was on our program yesterday. She was our headliner, as you are today. And she made the following point about what's happening down there, the southern border. Watch it.
Why don't we start with just the drugs? Why don't we start with just the unaccompanied children? Why don't we focus on that aspect in sequence? If you focus just on the drugs, I would say to these Democrats, all of whom voted in favor of massive legislation, they already put their vote to that and the funding to that a few months ago. They've compelled our own U.S. Postal Service to be more rigorous in interdicting and stopping these poisonous drugs from coming into our country. So let's do it at the southern border.
Why not?
You know, I agree with Kellyanne Conway. If we focus on the drugs and on all these children showing up, they're showing up and going through legal ports of entry, these checkpoints. That's where most of the drugs are going through. That's where most of these migrant children are showing up. So I support new technology to scan for these drugs. I also support changes in our immigration system to better streamline and deal with the number of migrant children coming through on legal ports of entry.
I'm still through all of this. I'm still looking for a compromise. I'm looking for something that your side's going to give, but we'll wait on that. Maybe it takes into the weekend here, but one more.
Congressman, do you, I mean, as far as the way the leaders of your party are approaching this, their strategy in working with the president on this issue, could anything be done differently?
I do. Absolutely. I think if we reopen government, much easier to get to a compromise, and that's what we're all striving to do first and foremost.
There's another story that's developing in Southern California near where you serve your people. Ed Buck is a longtime Democratic donor, and there is this apparently a second body in about a year and a half that was found inside of his home in West Hollywood. What can you add as to what police are trying to figure out about what happened this time?
My condolences go to the families of the deceased. While we await their outcome of their law enforcement investigation, I've decided to return any contributions that Mr. Buck gave to my congressional campaigns, and I've donated them to nonprofits and charities.
And will you take others? My assumption is no.
No, not from, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Ted Lieu, thank you, sir. The Democrat from Southern California. Really appreciate you coming on. I hope you come back.
Thank you. Anytime.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, sir. We're getting more reaction, too, from the White House a moment ago, just after President Trump said Mexico would pay for the wall. Deputy White House Press Secretary Hogan Gidley is live there. We'll talk to him about that. The president said a moment ago that we will see him in McAllen, Texas shortly, so stand by for that this afternoon. West Virginia Republican Shelley Moore Capito's on deck, too. She runs the committee responsible for funding that money, so she's up here live as well. As we roll on, busy day on a Thursday.
Mexico, I don't want to cause a problem. I don't want to cause. But in the end, Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
No.
I very calmly said, if you're not going to give us strong borders, bye-bye, and I left. I didn't rant. I didn't rave like you reported. I mean, some of the newspapers, and then Schumer always has his standard lie. He had a temper tantrum. I don't have temper tantrums. I really don't. But it plays to his narrative, but it's a lie. I very calmly walked out of the room. I didn't smash the table. I should have, but I didn't smash the table. And that's the story. So all of that narrative is a lie.
President Trump is now in the air on his way to the southern border. McAllen, Texas is his destination. Hogan Gidley is now joining us live from the White House. He's the deputy press secretary. And Hogan, good morning to you.
Great to have you back.
Welcome you to America's Newsroom. And I know you were in the Situation Room yesterday. You also just spoke to the president as he departed. What were his thoughts as he left?
Oh, well, you heard for all the world to see and hear out in the South Lawn is exactly what he told me beforehand, and that is Democrats refuse to negotiate. We now know that, and Ted Lieu was on earlier. What he said was a flat-out lie. He just told you that if the president opened the government and gave everything that the Democrats wanted to the Democrats, that they would negotiate on border security, including a fence. That is incorrect. The president exposed the Democrat hypocrisy and the refusal to negotiate in the Situation Room when he looked directly at Nancy Pelosi and said, what if I open the government? Will you talk to me about border security, including border barriers? And she said no. The meeting then was over. They refused to negotiate. We all saw their ridiculous, ignorant, and offensive language in that rebuttal to him the other night from the Oval Office when they kept using the phrase manufactured crisis. Was it manufactured when they voted for it multiple times in the past years? Was it manufactured when Barack Obama, right outside this wall to my right in the Rose Garden, said it was a crisis? And also, I bet if you asked the people in this country, the friends and family of those affected by illegal immigrants who've assaulted, sexually assaulted, or killed their loved ones, if it's manufactured, I guarantee you they'd say no. We have a crisis in this country. Democrats refuse to acknowledge it. They don't know the data, they don't believe the data, and worse, they don't care.
Okay. A couple specific questions. Again, just to repeat, you were in the room yesterday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Will the president declare a national emergency?
Well, he's looking at it, as you just heard him tell the cameras just now.
How strongly would he consider that?
Oh, he's strongly considering everything. Look, he has to secure the border. He's taken a constitutional oath to protect the American people. He's looking at every option under his legal authority to do just that. And we don't have any announcement on it at this time, but he's looking at every option because Democrats won't negotiate. Yep. This has to be fixed. Look, this has to be fixed via Congress. Yeah. This has to be fixed via Congress, Bill, and we don't want to put them let them off the hook here. But the fact of the matter is, the president still owns the obligation to protect the American people, and he's looking at every option to do just that.
Have you talked about a grand bargain? Do border security, do DACA, do all of it?
Well, look, we put that forward more than a year ago during the Schumer shutdown. They refused to talk about it then.
But in the current negotiations, is it being discussed?
Look, our offer's on the table. We put forth a comprehensive plan talking about technology for narcotics, more border security along the southern border at our ports of entry. We also talked about more beds, more ICE agents, all the things that Democrats talked about, including letting people claim asylum from their own country of origin. We've done all those things that the Democrats wanted, including changing the materials of the fencing from concrete to steel. So we have bent over backwards trying to negotiate with Democrats. We gave them a plan before Christmas, and we have yet to hear any solution. In fact, the only thing they are saying about solutions to this crisis center only around ports of entry. There are thousands of miles between ports of entry, and they want no solution to the 72% of illegal immigrants that come across between ports of entry.
People are just trying to figure out the president's strategy here, because we did go look back, and some of the president's tweets in the past referenced that some of the best deals are the ones you walk away from, the art of the deal, if you will. You know, where does the president think he stands right now as far as leverage in this negotiation and the progress that he's making with Democrats?
Well, it's not about leverage in the negotiation. It's laying out a case directly to the American people. You saw him do that in the Oval Office. You're going to see it today when he goes down to the border. What we're about to see is an incredible situation down in Texas, where you're going to see the humanitarian crisis, the faces of the people affected directly by illegal immigration. You're going to see the drugs. You're going to see the human trafficker situation right in your face. You're going to see the technology we have along the border. You're going to see that we need more of it. He's going to outline exactly what's going on directly to the American people. That also bolsters the case, because in their heart of hearts, Americans understand we have an issue at the border. We are taking that directly to them without the filter of cable news, without the filter of political pundits. He's going right to the American people, as he does so artfully all of the time.
We will watch that arrival in McAllen. I just have one last question.
Sure.
Is there another meeting on the calendar with Democrats, congressional leaders, or not?
Yeah. Not to my knowledge yet, but look, we're here. We've put forth everything. The president stayed through Christmas and New Year's. He's ready to negotiate. Democrats just simply won't come to the table, and it's the American people, both the 800,000 federal employees and the 300+ million people of this country, who are suffering because of the Democrats' inaction.
Well, we are out of time, but we appreciate yours. Come on back when we've got some news. Hogan Gidley from the White House. Thank you.
Thank you, Hogan. The president insisting that there is a way for Mexico to pay for that wall. Next up, we've got the senator who's responsible for getting that wall funding. Shelley Moore Capito is on deck.
Indirectly, and when I said Mexico will pay for the wall in front of thousands and thousands of people, obviously they're not going to write a check, but they are paying for the wall indirectly many, many times over by the really great trade deal we just made. Congress has to approve the deal.
That from last hour, the president now en route to McAllen, Texas, and with us now from the Hill, West Virginia Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito. She chaired the committee responsible for funding the wall. How are you, Senator? And good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning.
Looking at a shutdown right now, the check stop tomorrow for many Americans. You support reopening the government. In turn, would you explain what that position is with regard to doing that, along with border security?
Well, I think we all support reopening the government, but I think we've got to have some real solid agreement that border security is a priority for both parties, and that we're committed to funding barriers and other security items. And until we have that, I don't think we can reopen the government, because I don't think it would be a fair bargaining position. And, you know, there's a little lack of trust here, and I think that is where you see tough positions being taken.
Some movement on the Senate floor right now. Senator Chuck Schumer is now on the floor. He's trying to get the Senate to start considering the House passed spending bills to end the shutdown. Obviously expected to be blocked. Just wanted to see where you stand on that.
Well, I think that we've got to have all of the spending bills together, including Homeland Security. I think it's important for people to realize that in the Senate, in my bill, we had $1.6 billion of wall money in there for the president, which 10 Democrats in the committee supported at the time that we passed that in June. So there is support, but they've walked away from that original position. And my understanding from the meeting yesterday was it was a flat-out no.
Well, when you describe a lack of trust, could you give us an idea about where that's coming from?
Well, I think what it is we've had issues over the last several months, and probably since the president's been in office where offers have been on the table in genuine situations, and when it push comes to shove and the vote's up there, people are pulling their votes for political reasons. We got to get over that, and that's what creates a lack of trust.
You want to give us an example?
Well, I mean, I think we've had a couple examples with appropriations bills, but we've also had examples on some of the nominations and things of that sort. Without getting too specific, I think it's happened more than a few times. I mean, there's always sort of an edginess anyway in with political parties, which is the way our system is created. But I think that until we see firm commitments on border security, I don't think we're going to reopen the government, and I don't think we should.
Senator, how does this end?
I think it ends with the American people saying enough is enough. I mean, certainly we have the Coast Guard who's going to lose that next paycheck. We have prison guards. In my area, we have federal prison guards I'm very concerned about. Obviously, a lot of people live in paycheck to paycheck. That is going to, I think, put additional pressure on everybody. And I think that will probably be the breaking point. I don't know that we've reached it quite yet, but I think we'll reach it soon.
Senator, one last question here. I think in the last hour we've seen some remarkable things. The president characterizing the meeting yesterday at the White House. And then we had a Democratic congressman on from California, Ted Lieu. That was followed by Hogan Gidley from the White House press room, who basically said Ted Lieu was lying about the concessions Democrats are willing to give. Open government, then we'll work on border security. Can you say from your perspective what your Democratic colleagues are willing to give in terms of a compromise, as the White House would say, okay, we can do that?
I think what they have to be willing to give is a firm commitment at a firm number, and maybe even a 2 to 3 year number. And we're not seeing that at all, even though they gave us firm commitments in our committee on my bill that we passed last summer. But here's what I think about the representatives from California is I visited the San Diego sector. There is a barrier there that has prevented and the lack of, or the illegal immigration has caused that barrier to go way, way down. Are they suggesting that that barrier shouldn't be there? Because that's the rhetoric that you hear. And I'm not sure that that's the position they'd want to take.
Just to be clear, there's no bend in Democrats. That's what you're saying, correct?
There's no, not that I've seen, no.
Senator, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Come on back, okay? Shellamore Capital from West Virginia there on the Hill. In the meantime, the world's watching. Trade talks with China continue. There was a new report that without a deal, China has a lot to lose. The money man Charles Payne is running that down. He's next, right here.
Well, hello. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Charles Payne joins us. We're looking at everything that's going on today.
And there's a lot.
And we look to you to tell us what we need to know. And right now, it's about China and watching the markets. Not much movement today, but China's still the big story.
China is a big story because the economic data keeps coming in. It gets worse and worse. And now it's not a slowdown, but actually, recessionary pressures, deflationary pressures. It's just not with a super growth country like China. They're depending on rapid super duper growth, and the data that came out overnight was really bad.
Wall Street Journal piece Andy Puziner wrote today. Okay, you saw this, right?
Yeah.
He says this: like his predecessors, President Xi, Mr. Xi, insists that China's Communist Party has been totally correct over the past 40 years. This bluster is typical for a regime deeply concerned about appearing weak. President Trump's trade policies have put heavy pressure on the sore spots of China's economy. End quote. How does that get you a deal?
Here's the thing, though, that he didn't say. Xi has made a big mistake in with the respect that his predecessor didn't boast. He didn't brag. The predecessor never put out a Made in China 2025 declaration to the world that we will dominate you. His predecessor was very quiet, very humble about all of this stuff. President Xi actually has made this a bigger problem for his country than he had to make it. And therefore, he's made it a bigger problem for himself.
Puster goes on to that piece to say, look at the United States. I mean, he makes the case that it is rocking. This economic supposed slowdown that he talks about that's set our stocks down on, leading leading up to the end of the year. There was a lot of concern about a recession. He goes on to point out holiday spending, best in 6 years. He looks at credit card spending, Americans back to work, makes a lot of positive points about the economy. So where does the markets go next here, Charles?
You know, it's interesting. This is going to be a great day for the markets to assess where we are, to your point. We had that huge sell-off. We've got a magnificent, one of the biggest, quickest bounces we've ever seen in the market. And now we're at a point where what's next? The biggest news today, outside of perhaps what happens on our southern border with President Trump, certainly comes from Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve. He's going to speak. Everyone's listening. If he can reassure the markets one more time, hey, I'm not going to derail this economy. If it gets too fast, I'll take action, but I'm not going to wreck everything. We could be good. You know, right now,
4-day winning streak.
Macy's had bad news this morning. American Airlines had bad news this morning. If this was 2 weeks ago, this market would be down 400 points.
The good news is you were here. Charles Payne, the money man, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow on the Showdown.